Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. That's a quote Mark Twain said several years ago, and I could not agree with this more. This is my third shop, it's my third shop, and so far I've been in here a little more than a year and have moved stuff around several times. If you've watched any of my videos previously, you probably see that it looks a little bit different now than what it did in the last video. But anyway, the point for me to move a bunch of stuff or move the tool layout around is to gain a little bit of an edge here, gain a little bit of efficiency here, and because everything's on wheels and on casters, it's really not much effort at all to move stuff around. So it's not like I'm making major shop changes, just trying to continuously improve the efficiency and the workflow. So today I want to walk you through 5 things that I found to increase my shop efficiency and productivity. So the first one I've already mentioned just a second ago, and it's probably the most beneficial for anybody in a non-professional shop environment, and that is to keep everything mobile, keep everything on mobile bases or on casters, and that'll allow you to obviously change things as needed as your shop needs change, and also if you don't have a dedicated space to where you can leave your tools out at all times, it's obviously beneficial to be able to move all the tools away so you could use that shop space as it's otherwise needed. The second thing is to have all of your commonly used items open and visible, and preferably within an arm's reach of where they're going to be used. So basically any working environment has multiple layers of storage, and utilize that in a way that it's most convenient to how you work. Items that aren't used often, it's okay if they're a little inconvenient to access. So all of my lower drawer storage here on my miter saw station isn't incredibly convenient because you have to bend so far over, so that is long-term storage. Advancing from that is my waist high drawers that are easily accessible and you can easily see down inside them, and more convenient than that is all of my stuff that I use all the time that is open and visible. To use the miter saw as an example, what are you most commonly going to be using at the miter saw? Odds are a tape measure of some kind, a pencil, safety glasses, hearing protection. Maybe you will use a square for your reference lines. Everything is right here within an arm's reach of where you're going to be working. And something that I've really found to be beneficial to have right next to a miter saw is some type of setup to where you can clip or hold your cut list as you're working. That way it's all right here as you're working. You don't have to go hunt it down, and you can just go through all of your cuts as needed. The vast majority of us use a drill and a driver in our workflow, so keeping them readily available is quite obvious. But what do you use with the drill and driver most often, and keep that right next to the actual drill and driver. So as I grab my driver, I've got access to one of the most commonly used bits that I use, and as I grab one, I can grab the other and go as needed, and as I return them, I can return them both to the same spot. This remains empty, and I can always grab the one that I need as I'm grabbing this. Now the drill, I almost always use a countersink bit with my drill. I barely ever use an actual drill bit. So what I've got here is two, again, readily accessible to your drill, 2 different countersink bits. I always keep 2 because if you only have one, then that one is going to break when you need it. So it's good to have a backup. And at that point, if you're going to have 2, you might as well have them set to 2 different depths so you never have to adjust these really finicky Allen screws that are in these drill bits. So I pretty much always have one set to like 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch material, and then one for about 1.5 inch material. And I can always grab one as I'm grabbing the drill, and it's just very convenient. The third thing is something I just realized and seems to be working out really well, and that is to group tools to overlap the dead space. Pretty much every single tool has some type of dead space on the side in which you are not using that tool. So the table saw, you're not using the right side of the table saw far right, because there's always going to be the fence in the way, so you're not really using that space. It's kind of dead space. On the bandsaw, you're pretty much pushing stuff through the front side or pulling stuff through the back side, maybe standing off to the right side. You're never using this back left space. Same thing with a planer. I'm feeding stuff through on the infeed side, pulling stuff out on the outfeed side, and standing to this side to access the height adjustment. I'm never using this side of the planer. The area to the right of the table saw was never really assembly or working space anyway, so overlapping this dead tool space allows me to keep my planer out at all times, which this is a 92-pound planer, so I've realized that picking it up every time I need to use it has really become a chore. So having it out is very beneficial. The bandsaw is not interfering with the maximum capacity of the table saw because the bottom door is inset maybe a ½ inch or so from the maximum capacity of the table saw. So there's no interference with any one of these tools. And this is also, or moving the bandsaw over here, has also cleared up an entire wall for me to add another tool to the shop. Number 4 is to go vertical and stack your tools whenever possible. This is a shop vac and cyclone setup with all the hoses and attachments, taking up just about as much space on the floor as the shop vac itself, just a little bit more than that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a system like this. You could have a flip top system. So I've seen a lot of flip top carts that have a miter saw mounted on top, and then the top flips over and you have a benchtop planer mounted on the other side. So you have 2 tools, 1 footprint, taking up a lot less space. So lastly, utilize high wall storage space for items that you can't necessarily throw away but don't need to access anytime soon. So this shop is actually a 2-car garage attached to my house. So what ends up happening is a lot of the stuff that we don't need all the time, like the Christmas tree or a cooler and some lawn chairs, it ends up getting in my shop, and I don't want that to be taking up working space. So having a spot to put the items up and out of the way is very beneficial. I've got a full-length shelf on my back wall, and I've actually made above my garage door some similar shelves as well. So utilizing wasted space is very beneficial, especially when you go vertical with it. I know there's a lot of you out there that already have some workflow efficiency or storage solution tips and tricks that you'd like to share, so please leave them in the comment section below so all of us can learn from that. Hopefully you're able to get something out of this video, and I'm about to start in on the next dimensional lumber furniture project, so I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.